Hello and welcome to the Cardiac Cats YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jacob Shorba, and we're here to recap day two of the 2025 NFL Draft, where it was a long wait if you were a Jaguars fan. We expected to pick at number 70. We got a few picks out from there, and Jacksonville ends up moving off the pick, right? Trading with the Detroit Lions. They did get a haul for this trade. I think that's got to be noted here. They ended up going back to 102, but they ended up picking up two future thirds from the Detroit Lions, specifically from them. And what I mean by that is that it's Detroit's original third rounder. It's Detroit's compensatory third rounder that is locked in for the departure of Aaron Glenn. So the Jaguars, all of a sudden next year, well, you don't have that first round pick. You've got a second. You've got 3/3 on day two. So they're going to have a lot of shots still in that next draft class to work. There's something to be excited, right? And so that was a big move by this team. Really loved it. Thought it was a great move by James Gladstone to kind of help out that draft class and still end up getting a really high quality selection here that we're going to talk about in just a second. But your first pick of the night, pick 88, I did not think the second player off the board would be someone I didn't scout. I did not think the Jaguars' second pick would turn out like that, but it did, and it was Caleb Ransaw out of Tulane. Now, I'm just going off the things I've heard of Caleb Ransaw. I will do my own scouting on him before we do like a full breakdown on this pick. Well, ideally, be able to have that up in the next couple of weeks. But Caleb Ransaw, from what I know, extremely fast player right off the bat, right? 4.33 second, 40-yard dash. So you think, at this size, like I'm thinking free safety at first, which the Jaguars have a lot of, but you read some of the profile on him. Not sure if they note it as much on here. Yeah, they talk about him as a nickel specifically, how he has a lot of upside there. This one from the 33rd team, noting how good he is as a tackler. So this is someone that you could play in the box, right? He may not be huge, right? He's 5'11", 197-pound safety. It's a little undersized, but some of these players, they play bigger than their size, right? And so Caleb Ransaw, I think, from everything you see, seems like someone who can play both roles for the Jaguars, which is important because we have a lot of players who project into the free safety role specifically. So it sounds to me like Ransaw is going to have a legitimate opportunity to maybe compete for a starting job at safety. I think he's going to be a big part of things on the back end. It will be interesting, of course, because it's a player I did not even scout, and that's not to knock him, right? That's not to say this was a bad draft pick. I honestly cannot say whether or not it was great because I have not watched the player. This was a weird draft class where I did have 172 prospects scouted, but there were going to be names that slipped through the cracks. A lot of teams are going to have their own rankings as well. And that's why you see some weird players falling in the draft this year and some names that you maybe haven't heard. So those are kind of my initial thoughts on Caleb Ransaw. As far as his grades, you see what they're talking about with the tackling here specifically. He did play a lot as a nickel defender this last year. The PFF grades are not like incredible here, right? You don't have a lot of interception production. You don't have a ton of pass breakups. You got one. And so this seems like a player that if I'm going to like him, I'm not saying I don't like him, right? I'm going to make that clear. I cannot give you an honest opinion on this player just because I'm surprised we didn't take someone I had at least scouted. But I would say that if you're going to fall in love with this player, it's going to be from the film, right? Because the stats, I don't think really show that. I think the testing sure does, right? I mean, 433 for a 40-yard dash is incredible. But you got to see it on the field, and so he's going to be someone I'm going to definitely have to watch and check out in the next couple of days, hopefully. But those are my initial thoughts on Caleb Ransaw. Now, the pick that blew me away that I loved it because I think this is a future starter at left guard. Could be this year. I think he's a perfect player for what the Jaguars need to bring in. And this is what we were talking about. I'm going to reiterate this again to everyone who forgot that we have rounds 2 through 7 of the draft. You can draft offensive line later, right? It doesn't mean you don't draft it first round. It doesn't mean you can't draft it first round. But there are other rounds to work with. So I'm just saying, you can get good players elsewhere, and this is a perfect example for the Jacksonville Jaguars, as they picked my 43rd ranked prospect and Wyatt Milum at pick 89. Hell of a pick by the Jaguars. So talking about Milum, long-term tackle with West Virginia. This is someone that I think he's going to have a lot of success, very similar to his former teammate Zach Frazier, who played center, right? Different position on the offensive line, but he ended up arguably being the best center last year, although I do like JPJ more. I mean, we all love JPJ last year in the draft, but Wyatt Milum, I think, is going to have a lot of success like that. This is someone who is a mauler in the run game. He lives to pancake guys. He has that same incredible grip strength that you saw from Zach Frazier, and that's going to help to start to transform the mentality of this offensive line, right? We want killers in this unit. We want guys who are going to go kick the defense's ass. I want to see these guys pancaking defenders. I want to see them setting the tone in the game. And for so long, the Jaguars have not had that. Now, is there more work to do? Yes, there is, right? Milum is one piece of the puzzle. But I think you look at this offensive line, whether or not he's starting, that is a future starter. And that's going to help this unit out a lot. They brought in two of their own guys this offseason in Patrick McCarry and Robert Hainsey. And I'm going to trust them on that those guys are going to play a physical game of football. Maybe a little more questioning of McCarry specifically. But I think that they're going to bring that in from those guys. And this is going to be something that, look, it wasn't all going to change in one offseason. You're going to watch this offensive line transform over time with moves like this. You might see some first-round picks thrown in too, right? All that's going to be 2027 before that happens now, because we went and got a generational prospect the night before in Travis Hunter. But Wyatt Milum, this is a hell of a player. My quick synopsis on him, I'd say he's a refined blocker who will likely be asked to play inside at the NFL level, but his aggression and dominance as a blocker to translate well and make him a good starter. The player that you're going to hear a lot for a comp with Wyatt Milum is Will Fries. And that's a good one, right? Will Fries just got paid a lot of money. But Milum, this is someone, you look at the grades, incredible grade from him, right? 92.5 in pass protection, 89.2 in run block. And this is actually better in zone. He's like a 90 in zone, 78 in gap. I know that because I've looked multiple times before the draft. He has got some phenomenal stats here. And you look at the sacks allowed. Not one since 2022 started. Not a single one. And he started that whole time. Right? He's been playing for West Virginia in all these games. So this is a really good football player. The question perhaps is the athleticism. Like, he's not a phenomenal athlete. I still think he's a good one. You also talk about the arm length, which is why he got kicked inside the guard as far as the selection, right? They announced him as a guard, even though he's played tackle. He's still a younger player, though. 22 years old. 6'6", a little bit taller than that, actually. So you're going to have to watch, the leverage. You got to get low in your stance as a guard. 313 pounds. Huge hands, like we said, right? Same thing as like Zach Frazier last year. Just phenomenal grip strength. I mean, they showed a picture, I think, when the Jaguars drafted him. They posted on their timeline of him shaking someone's hands at the Senior Bowl, and they're like twice the size of the air guy's hands. And I will say, I feel awful that I did not interview him at the Senior Bowl. I had an opportunity at the end of the night, but it was finishing. He would have done it, and I ended up passing on it because I didn't want to take up his time. I should have just done it because he's a freaking Jaguar. I could have actually met someone out there who got on the team for the first time, but I made a bad mistake. It sucks. It is what it is. But arm length, right? 32 inches, just over that. It's not to the tackle threshold. If it was, he would have a legit shot out there, and he could be a backup tackle for this team or an emergency tackle, so you like adding that especially if he's the future Ezra Cleveland replacement, whether now or later. I do really like how that looks. The 40-yard dash, like I mentioned, like this isn't great here, but this is still a good enough athlete. I would probably have him a little higher than a C. I think I got this kind of low. But you see my grades here. It's good size still for a guard. Great run blocker, right? High level run blocker. This grade was more so from when he played a tackle. I don't think I've updated this in a little bit, so I'd probably have that a little bit higher. The anchor sometimes is questionable, but still pretty good. And uber physical player. My final grade for him is a 6.54, which what that means, we have a range for different rankings. And this one is an above average starter, and it's basically right in the middle. It's a 6.4 to 6.69. So Wyatt Milum, to me, is going to be a future starter on this offensive line, and he's going to be someone who could be a high-level starter for the Jaguars. He is the right kind of mentality to transform what we have so desperately begged this team to do for years, and that is to have an offensive line that actually gives a crap about the run game, actually cares, right? We just have not had that in Jacksonville, and the mentality has to change because for some reason, when Trent Baalke was here, he could not figure out that the run game existed. He could not fathom that concept for whatever reason. So, depth chart now for this team. I mean, it's exciting, right? I don't know why they don't have Travis Hunter listed as a starter on defense. They're really hesitant to just accept the guy's answer if he's going to play both ways. Wyatt Milum, though, I think he's more so going to be the left guard over like Chuma Edoga. As far as the backup, I think he could have a chance to start. Caleb Ransaw, probably not listed in the right spot here either. I think he's going to be more of like a safety, although he could rotate into this role. The issue is Jarion Jones, right? Like, what's going on with him? Is he going to play for us, or is he just playing outside? I think at this point, he's just going to be a part of the rotation. There's going to be a lot of players in that. Eventually, you're going to move off Darnell Savage. Eric Murray, they'll probably try to get off the contract, right? Because you're going to need to start saving money as you bring in players. I think things will open up more in the secondary, maybe later this year and in 2026 would be my thoughts. So those are my thoughts on the draft, right? And for day 2, I love it. I obviously can't speak as much to Caleb Ransaw. I'm not going to say anything good or bad about him aside from just what's obvious before you scout him. With the Wyatt Milum pick, massive value here. It's been a while since we've seen a pick like that for the Jaguars, but 43rd ranked prospect at 89, right? This is a legit player. It's a great draft pick, and I'm really hoping that the Jaguars keep building on that offensive line because there's some other players that might be able to target. As far as players available, where do the Jaguars pick? I believe they have 104 and 107. Well, actually, let's 100% confirm where they pick. We'll make sure we get this right. Yeah, so 104, 107. Do we really have to wait till 194? Oh, gosh. So we might... I don't fully trust the PFF simulator because it's been off on some things. Like, you don't even have the picks from Detroit in here. So don't take me 100% on this being the draft capital. I'd have to look at it more closely. But we do have 2 very early picks today. If we make both those picks, some good players on the board for what you want to see. And we'll see what the Jaguars do. Now, I have a couple names eliminated from this because I've been using this mainly for drafting for the mock rebuild. So, like, 2 players I took in that have not gone the draft. Jalen Royals, Kyle Monungai. So those are also guys that are available. I would love for this team to snag Kyle Monungai. He could fall really far. He could go undrafted. For all I know, just because teams like freak out when you're not the greatest athlete in the world at running back. But he's still an explosive player. You know, I've talked about that here. And Jalen Royals, if they wanted to bring in another receiver for the future and just want to get great value at this point, I mean, he's not on that list, but he is 27th for me this year. It's really high. I'm probably one of the highest grade. He's one of the highest grade guys for me, and I'm sure on any big board, this is close to the highest he's going to get. But Royals, just a really good route runner, great athlete, cool, good guy as well. He would definitely be an intangibly rich prospect. So I could see the Jaguars wanting someone like that. Would love to see it happen. Other names that make sense. If they want to go back to the offensive line and just get a guy who can start for you and do it at a pretty good level, Miles Frazier is a great value pick here. You also have Joshua Farmer from Florida State, who is a really high upside defensive lineman. He's got like 35-inch arms. I mean, just crazy stuff here. He's a big guy. He has some phenomenal plays on film with stacking and shedding. He is someone I would be very happy with if the Jaguars took him. The name I would probably throw out as the most likely pick, or what I would like to see, kind of the combination of both those things I could actually see the Jaguars doing based off of, is this guy intangibly rich? How good is he right now? What are we bringing into the building? Braden Swinson would be that guy for me. Really good power rusher. He's got good size. He's grayed out well for me. I mean, I think he's going to at least be an average starter in the NFL. That's what this equates to. But this is someone who's a very good character on top of all this. He could be your edge 3. He'd be a really good one for this team. Would love to see him come in, but you also got to figure out, are the Jaguars going to be focused more on 3-4 players, 4-3 players? That could play into this a little bit, and I don't know what they haven't shown. Yeah, 4-3 is what this says. I know that's been kind of a question for me that I have not got answered, but it kind of depends on what you want to do. I still think he's going to be a good addition if you want to bring him in, but I would love to get Braden Swinson. I think that'd be a top tier player to bring in at this point in the draft, but there's a lot of value, right? There's a lot of players who are available here that could be really nice additions for the Jaguars, and then Shedeur Sanders at the top, which is just crazy, but it is what it is. With that all said, we are going to wrap this up here, though. It's a good day 2 for the Jaguars, right? Long wait. That part of it kind of sucked, but it's worth it. You got 2 more picks next year. We're loaded on draft capital as far as the number of picks that this team has had. And there's going to be some really good selections, I believe, at the top of day 3. We'll just have to wait and see who that is, but I feel good about it. I think the Jaguars are going to have a good day and finish this thing off strong. And you're going to have a lot of UDFAs getting signed later, so you'll get a lot of news from that. Definitely feeling good about where this team is and how they've dealt with the draft so far and the type of players they brought in. So, want to shout out our channel members before we go here. Premier Series 904, Nightmare Eco, Gator John Bites, Ichi Wiener, Mr. Dolphin, Scrubber Ducky 500, Brian Foster, and Frangies. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I know there are some big Wyatt Milum fans here in the comments. So I think Jay Shupp is one of them. I know you weren't thrilled about the Travis Hunter pick. Maybe you'll like this one. But yeah, definitely y'all let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video. Finally, go Jags.